guys, we're here today at Powercruise. It's a little bit different than what we'd normally be at, but we thought we'd come on down and share the love. And we've brought a couple of our cars today, so as always, happy to have the Senna out. It's a whole heap of fun and it always attracts a lot of attention. So it's one of those cars that I think that when you see it, it makes you realise just how special these cars are. It is a road registered car. We enjoy driving it to the track and doing the things we do, and then obviously being able to just drive it home as well. So the car's currently sitting in race mode, and as you see, it's probably not quite how we could be driving it too often on the road, because it does sit considerably lower, nearly 40 mil lower than its standard settings. But for that, it really does work well on the track in that regard. So the car obviously is full carbon fibre chassis, and you can see this here on the side. And internally, what we like, we have a bit of a laugh often about people say there's so much carbon. Well, of course there is, because the whole car's made of carbon. But inevitably, when you order these cars, they actually ask you, what do you not want that's in exposed carbon? And naturally, being a carbon fibre car, everything is light and made to be the best power to weight ratio opportunity and outcome that it can be. We've got a 4-litre twin turbocharged V8. Now, currently it's at about 820 horsepower, just a few little changes there with air intakes, a small change in terms of the sport cat on the car. The car, when it's in GTR form, produces between 820 and 830 horsepower. And of course, it's still got the original exhaust outlet on the back, which is for the noise and the way that the ADRs wanted it here in Australia. So aero on the car is obviously a huge factor in terms of how the performance of this car is realised. The rear wing on the car only weighs 5 kilos, but it can actually handle 500 kilos of downforce. The interesting fact about the swan neck supports at the back, they're actually solid carbon fibre, but they're actually made up of individual layers. So there's something like 54 layers of carbon fibre that make up the actual strut support here. And you can see it's angled back slightly. And so naturally, whilst we say it's got 500 kilos in its downforce setting, because the air's hitting it from the front, it's actually rated at 1,200 kilos to be able to push back on the wing itself. The wing is fully moving, so it moves into downforce positions depending on what speed it's doing. It'll go into stall mode at high speed, so later on you might see it where the wing actually looks like it's backwards or angling down, and then under braking it will almost stand up vertical. So that adds up to 20% braking capacity to the car. So once again, the car has an outstanding feature, and more often than not when people get out and say, yeah, it's okay for the power and its handling is pretty good, but the brakes are just something phenomenal. Yeah, they are, but having said that, they're also helped by the active aerodynamics. And then out the back of the car here, you can see that we've got a triple level diffuser. And the idea of that is that it directs air under, through and over the top of the diffuser. So they're taking every opportunity they can to really, how should we say, gain as much out of the car's potential that it can deliver. If you look into the back of the car through these quite three-dimensional fins, you can see that we've got the hydraulic activation of the strut units. So they have what's called a helper spring on them, but the car is not suspended through conventional methods. It's actually done through active hydraulics. And so that means that the car, when it's accelerating, doesn't squat into the rear end. When it's braking, it doesn't pitch onto the front. When it goes around corners, it doesn't roll, because you're actually getting all of that being counteracted by the way that the computers are reading what the car's doing and what it's capable of delivering. The problems that go with that, obviously, is being active and the car's constantly reacting to the way that it's being driven, is that when you're going pretty quick, it doesn't tell you a lot of the times when you're getting close to the edge like a conventional suspension car will. So, you know, there's a lot of faith when you tip it into a corner in Phillip Island, when you're doing 220, 225 through turn 1, you just turn in knowing that the car will do it, which is a lot of fun. Brakes on the car, as we touched on before, they're pretty handy. These ones we've got on it now are actually the brakes that are supplied on the GTR car that comes from the factory, but they're made by another company in the UK. These vanes in here, they're actually fully active as well. So when they released this car, it was the only fully active aero car for both front and rear for a road registered car in the world. I think there's now been a couple of others that have come out as well. But pretty terrific, and they're not just front and rear, they're actually side to side. So if you're going through a quick corner to the right, for example, so the vanes on the right hand side of the car will be in full down mode, whereas the vanes on the left will release so that it encourages the car to turn right. In addition to that, McLaren have on their road cars what's now been banned in Formula 1, which is called brake steer. And what that does is it enables the car to actually assist you going into a corner. So for example, here in turn 1 at QR, it'll actually put the right rear brake on on full acceleration so that it'll actually pull the car into the corner. So there are all sorts of things which they've done in the way that they've developed cars. It's super interesting to think that the technology that they obviously have in Formula One has made its way into road cars, and it's done it in a pretty intelligent and, I guess if I do say so myself, really usable way. The mid-engine and the balance of this car is quite remarkable. And as I've said to a few people, it actually helps to make a pretty average driver look quite reasonable.
So have you ever made it to a Powercruise before?
No, we've never been to one of these, but gee, it's looking like a lot of fun. It's a hot day today, so it's going to be an interesting one to deal with this right through the afternoon. And Queensland Raceway, when it gets hot here, man, does it turn it on. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. Keeps lots of water happening, hydration up, and I think by the end of the day, we're going to be super happy.